Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? My name is TJAY Jones, and yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Shouts out to everybody in the chat right now. Shouts out to you if you're listening, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for choosing the State of the Saints podcast. On this edition, we're going to be talking a little bit about a few free agent signings for the New Orleans Saints. Some guys have been re-signed by the Black and Gold. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about Derek Carr and head coach Dennis Allen. Because, of course, if you read social media on Twitter, Facebook, what have you, there's a lot of people have some thoughts and feelings about both of these individuals, quarterback Derek Carr, Dennis Allen. We're going to be talking about and answering the question, can the Saints win with these two individuals? So, yeah. But I also want to say thank you to so many people that reached out via email, reached out on social media, giving me their thank yous and appreciation for the last episode. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. On the last episode was the highest streamed episode of the State of the Saints podcast. We got up to about 1,500 people watching at one time, which is extremely overwhelming for a person that started doing podcasting in their apartment closet to keep the noise out. I really do appreciate it. And also shouts out to those individuals that that watched the follow-up episode where we were talking about Chase Young. And, I was giving information about Chase Young. And, of course, we know about the whole neck surgery situation. So thank y'all for that, man. I really do appreciate you all. And for those that probably just rolled up on the State of the Saints podcast, never heard of it, probably just seen it because you're on Twitter or something like that, wondering who the black dude is with the hat on. Yeah, we've been doing this since 2018. We've been, following the New Orleans Saints for a long time. I've been a Saints fan my entire life. I'm a native of New Orleans, born and raised in the Ninth Ward area, went to George Washington High School, Charles Joseph Colton Middle School, Lorraine Hansberry Elementary School. I even did my freshman year at Dillard University. So I'm about as New Orleans as a hot sausage on French. But thank you so much. But let's go ahead and get into it. Talk a little bit about some of these signings that the New Orleans Saints have made official. I think since the last episode we've done, the Saints have officially signed quarterback Nate Peterman. Super Bowl is on the horizon. We also learned that the Saints have signed Jonathan Abram back, Ugo Amadi. They also picked up offensive lineman Ali Udo. Ali Udo is a left tackle, also can play right tackle. He came from Eline back in 2019. He was a 6th-round pick coming out of Eline. He's a native of North Carolina. He was with the Minnesota Vikings from 2019 to 2023. He started in 43 games. Well, he played in 43 games, and he started 18 of them. He's 27 years old. So, look, I really honestly feel like the Saints adding Udo, I think that's huge. And also it can be very, very telling because by the Saints signing this individual, it makes you wonder, like, are the Saints still going to go after a left tackle or go after offensive lineman in the first round? Because Udo, like I said, he started 18 games, was pretty steady, man. I mean, he wasn't the best offensive tackle that you ever seen, but he was pretty good. He was pretty doggone good, man, and pretty solid. So this can be one of those situations where the Saints, picked up Larry Warford, from Detroit a few years back. And I know how he ended up leaving New Orleans, but he was pretty steady for a few years until like his final season with the black and gold. But all in all, I think that this is a good move for the New Orleans Saints. You also have some guys on the offensive line that we expect to get a little bit better. Trevor Penning is still out there. Will the Saints move him to guard, which I really feel like they probably will. You also attention to, but the Saints signed him, but he ended up like having season-ending injury, and that Trey Turner. I don't know exactly if he's on the roster. I think, according to Wikipedia, he still was. I know he signed a one-year deal, so I don't know if he's still a part of the New Orleans Saints roster or not, but I think he may have signed a one-year deal, but that may be somebody that you can add for depth purposes. I mean, he started in a lot of games. Also, you got Nick Seldevery out there who really didn't get any experience or any type of rep. So you have some young, talented offensive linemen that you can, add to your team and possibly, be competing in training camp for starting positions. And that's what it's all about. And it also leaves a question mark once again, like I mentioned, will the Saints still go after an offensive lineman in the first round? You would think that by them signing Chase Young to that one-year deal, probably not going to be looking at a pass rush in the first round. You're probably going to be looking at offensive linemen. I know Brock Bowers' name has come up, since the signing of Chase Young. I know that's a little bit of a dream for some of the members of the Who Dat Nation. Would love to have Brock Bowers as a member of the New Orleans Saints. A lot of people are comparing him to George Kittle, some of those really classic, tight ends. And he's supposed to be one of the best tight ends to come out in quite some time. So it doesn't really matter what direction or what angle the Saints come from in this draft. I don't think that this is a draft where if the Saints draft at any position, people would get upset because there's so many different needs at so many different positions that I don't see how anybody can get upset, besides the fact that maybe they go after a position that's not as sexy as others. I know when teams draft offensive linemen in the first round, people kind of roll their eyes like, oh, man, because they want to see that first round pick constantly grow and develop and maybe hear their name over and over again. But we know that when you draft offensive linemen, you don't want to hear their name all over and over again. You want to hear their name very little because that means that they're doing their job effectively. But regardless, I would be excited no matter what angle the Saints come from because there are so many different needs. We know that the Saints so far have picked up Willie Gay, linebacker, came from the Kansas City Chiefs, also went to college at Mississippi State, a native of Starkville, Mississippi. You also have a couple guys at the wide receiver position, Stanley Morgan, a native of New Orleans. Cedric Wilson Jr. came over from the Miami Dolphins, also played with the Dallas Cowboys. So I know there's some reports about, some other wide receivers that are out there. One in particular is Odell Beckham Jr. I think I seen an article out about that. But I really like Cedric Wilson being added to the New Orleans Saints. I don't think that a lot of people understand like how talented that guy is. Everywhere he goes, he gets lost in the shuffle. And it's no fault of his. It's a lot of times where he goes to team, where he went to the Miami Dolphins where they signed Tyreek Hill and they also drafted Jalen Waddle. So it was kind of hard for him to actually get the football when you have that type of talent that's ahead of you. But here you have only a few guys on the roster. You know that you have Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, and A.T. Perry. But, they're outside of that, you don't really have anything else. So this wide receiver room is going to look completely different, and guys going to have to compete. So I expect for the New Orleans Saints to not only sign maybe another free agent at the wide receiver position, but I expect for them to draft one with one of the draft picks that they have. Now, I don't know if it's going to be in the second round or it's going to be maybe in the later rounds, but there's a lot of talented wide receivers in this draft. Braden Rice would be one of my top guys that I feel like would add to the New Orleans Saints team. The son of Jerry Rice, he's an extremely talented guy, and I honestly feel like he kind of fits that what the New Orleans Saints are actually doing right now. If you want to go with a bigger body, maybe Keon Coleman out of Florida State, the Louisiana native, you can probably go with him as well. There's so many different talented wide receivers out there. So I expect for the New Orleans Saints to be able to maybe add another young guy in the draft. But so many different talented offensive linemen. You have Fuaga, you got Tyler Guyton, you got the offensive lineman out of Penn State, who is a highly touted. You got Joe Alt out there, who a lot of people think is the top or will be the top offensive lineman in this draft. But I just think that the Saints just need to go after offensive linemen, even though they got Udo. Udo is pretty solid, but I think it's time for the Saints to solidify this left tackle position. And if you can get somebody in place, maybe, a rookie where, in the first round, you get at least 4 years of a guy to take a look at him, right? And this draft has those talented offensive linemen. So I don't expect if you were to get one of these individuals at 14, you would be looking to find another left tackle in the next 2 years. I just don't see that. These guys are really fundamentally sound, super athletic, definitely what you're looking for on the offensive line. So we'll see. We know that the Saints are not short of surprising the Who Dat Nation, surprising fans. One minute you're thinking they're going to be pursuing one position, turns out they go in a completely different direction. So should be interesting leading up to the draft. But I will say this, shouts out to Bleacher Report. I re-upped with Bleacher Report once again. So throughout the month of April, we're going to be talking about the NFL draft. We're going to be doing mock drafts over there on Bleacher Report. So I'm just asking everybody to follow me on Bleacher Report. I'm going to go ahead and put that into the chat so people can actually get that where you all know where you can find me. I'm asking everybody to just follow the page, follow me on Bleacher Report. And, I do a weekly podcast there, Saints Talk with TJAY Jones. And we're going to be talking about that throughout the month of April leading up to the NFL draft. So looking forward to doing that. And looking forward to seeing some of you over there. But in the meantime, download the Bleacher Report app, hit that link, and also follow me on my page so you can get up-to-date notifications every time I go live or on Bleacher Report or if there's a video that's been posted. But let me go ahead and read some of your comments, and then we'll go from there. Keen Arthur says, hit the like button and subscribe to the SOTS on your way in. Appreciate that, Keen Arthur. Tyrell says, who that TJ? My top 5, Sproles, Pierre Thomas, Breeze, Deuce, and Graham. Yeah, Tyrell, appreciate that. For those that don't know what Tyrell is talking about, we're going to be doing a tier episode of the State of the Saints podcast, not actually shedding tears, but we're going to be talking about Mount Rushmore tiers when it comes to New Orleans Saints players. So the episode is going to be coming out pretty soon. We're going to be talking about the different tiers. Now, I asked everybody to set up 5 tiers and where you rank them. Who's in tier 1, who's in tier 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So we're going to be having that episode. So I'm asking everybody, if you have your tiers ready, make sure that when we do that episode, you have them ready so we can discuss them and talk about them. In that episode, I'm definitely going to be opening up the phone lines for that one so I can get people's thoughts and views on how they feel or who should be the top New Orleans Saints players of all time. Congratulations on that, TJ. Well, I appreciate it, man. Look, I just, blessed to be able to, to get that information from, from the person that I did, man. And I'm just glad to give it to you all. I'm just glad to give it to y'all. Anything I can do to make the show better or give you all as much current information as possible, I'm about that. We know that, when you're doing independent podcasting and stuff like that, it's kind of hard for you to be able to get access to certain things because maybe people that's within, organizations or people that see you probably, I don't want to say don't respect your work, but probably look at you a little bit differently than they did with somebody with a name. So I was just glad to give that particular information to you all. Yeah, you had a couple of people out there that wasn't very happy about it. Tried to discredit me, you know, asking me questions about, oh, how did you get the information? Like I'm just clout chasing. But hey, as y'all can see, you know what I'm saying, I was pretty right. And I noticed that the people that were trying to hate and say something, they got real quiet when that story actually came out, right? I ain't hit no I'm sorry, my bad, no nothing. But people had no problem with trying to criticize me on certain things that I say. Yeah, I can be petty sometimes because people are petty with me. But hey, it is what it is. Sorry. Having a procedure, which is a big difference. Therefore, the Saints got a good deal. And let me see, his contract was incentive based, including injury. I'm gonna say this, man. I don't know where that information came from, but that ain't true. That ain't true. And I saw, you know what I'm saying, like, and I know where you're coming from with that, and you know what I'm saying, but that narrative it ain't true. He's having surgery. I know this, and I know this for a fact. I know this for a fact. He's having surgery. So I know there's a difference between surgery and a procedure, but no, he's having surgery. This is something that I know. If you notice, like Chase Young has had neck issues for quite some time, and this stems back from when he first got with the Commanders. Like if you go look at Commanders injury report or look at some of the news articles in the archives, he's had issues with his neck for quite some time. So, but no, he's having surgery. I understand people talking about a procedure, surgery, so they can try to minimize it or whatever, but it's serious. But it should be one of those situations in good hands. You should be ready, and Saints fans don't really have anything to worry about. You know, other teams, they didn't want to go there. You know, they didn't want to go there with him, you know, because, you know, they didn't want to risk it. The Saints felt like he was worth the risk, and they took it. And honestly, if he does become 100%, then it is going to be a really good return on investment. But when you're dealing with a neck injury and you're a defender, I mean, you constantly, you constantly like tackling folks and stuff like that. Man, it's kind of hard for a defender, you know, to have like a neck issue and, you know, and you can't protect that. Now, there's no way that you can protect your neck, you know, as a defender. Hopefully, our new O-line coach can help Penning's progress. I think that's probably one of the key elements of what the Saints were actually looking for. So, like somebody that's going to be able to be a good teacher. And, the offensive line coach that they have has a reputation of developing guys and being a really good teacher. So we'll see. We'll see. I could still see this team drafting a defensive end or I guess like defensive interior, I guess you mean, in the first round. I feel a tackle could still be had in the second round or free agency after draft cuts. Well, look, I think that they could draft a defensive end, but I'm pretty sure they'll probably look at that room, and despite what we may think about some of those individuals, they're probably still high on them. I mean, you still got Peyton Turner out there, which is an individual like none of us really talk about because, I mean, he's always injured. I'm not trying to bash him or anything, but that's just what it is. He's been injured throughout his entire career. And then you have Isaiah Foskey out there, who the Saints are still high on. You just added Chase Young. You got Carl Granderson out there. You got Brian Brzee. You got Tano Passanio, and you got Cam Jordan. So I don't know if the New Orleans Saints were looking at defensive end as a top priority in the first round, but if there's somebody there that they like and they feel like that's a generational talent, if Dallas Turner is there, if Jared Verse is there, and you think that this guy has the capability of being that next Cam Jordan for your franchise, then I wouldn't be mad at it. But I just think that the Saints have bigger fish to fry, and I don't want it to be like one of these situations when with Drew Brees where they should have been tried to find the successor to Drew Brees, but they kept on kicking that can down the road. So you got to be able to get this offensive line straight, man, because you have a quarterback with happy feet, and you got to make sure that he's comfortable. If Derek Carr is comfortable, he's going to make some throws, and if he gets hit often, early and often, it's going to speed up that clock in his head, and he's going to make some quick decisions, and sometimes those decisions aren't going to be very, very good ones. So I expect for the New Orleans Saints to fix this offensive line, because if anything has shown, if this has shown us anything when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, they are trying to make sure that Derek Carr is happy. So I expect for them to draft the offensive lineman in the first round. If they don't, then that would kind of be a little bit of a shock to me. Like I said, I wouldn't be upset if they don't get offensive linemen, but it'll be shocking if that's not their number one priority right now. It should be. What's going to happen to Peyton Turner? Well, Peyton Turner just going to be a part of the rotation. He's going to be a part of the rotation, and hopefully he can get on the field. But here's the thing, man: when you have a defensive lineman or safety, cornerback, whatever position, when you have a guy who you expect to be a part of your starting rotation, but he's never healthy, you can't keep on waiting for him to get well. You can't wait on him to for the light to come on and he just have years and years of just perfect health. I think that the years have shown you that there's some talent there. I mean, when he's on the field, he's noticeable. I mean, he's made some plays when he was out there, but when you're never out there, it's kind of hard for anybody to really judge you accordingly. And teams are going to have to, the team is going to have to make a tough decision. They can't just be waiting on you to get well, or they can be like, man, it's Peyton's spot. Like, you got to put somebody out there that's going to be a little bit consistent when it comes to the health. Now, if he does get better, if he does play a full season and he plays well, then, you can move up the depth chart. But right now, I don't think that Peyton Turner should be a number one priority for the New Orleans Saints, because you can't really trust his health. I mean, I hate to sound like that, to sound rude, or make it seem like I'm insensitive, which I am. I am very sensitive to the fact that guys get hurt. It's football. Anybody that plays football know that you're a play away from never playing football again or being out for a long time. But you got to be able to play. And if teams can't trust you to be out there on the field consistently, then guess what? I mean, it's time to go to someone that possibly will be, a picture of health. Trade Turner. I mean, Jerry, you can't really trade him for anything. Like, what are you going to get for Peyton Turner? Of a guy who hasn't really played that much. I mean, I think maybe he played 12, 13 games maybe his entire career. I mean, he came into the league, 2021 or something like that? So, I mean, that's not good. Let me see how many games Peyton Turner have been a part of, because I gotta tell you, I can't remember how many games he played in. All right, so here we go right here. All right, let me make sure that I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. He hasn't played in a lot of games. All right, I mean, he missed quite a bit. I can't really get that up right now, but I'll make sure that I get that. If somebody ain't got anything else to do, if you want to take a look and maybe put it into the comments, feel free to do so. But I know he hasn't played. I know he hasn't played that much. All right, there we go. Thank you, Keno. 15 games total. I know it had to be something like that, like something in that range. But yeah, I mean, 15 games, and you came into the league, 2021? Or 21, 22, 23, so that's 3 seasons? And you played in 15 games? That's not good. I mean, what is 18 game season, right? Shoot, 18 weeks, 17 games. So you played 17 game season, and you only played in 15 in three seasons. That's not good. That is not good at all. I still didn't like Peyton Turner pick. I don't want to say I didn't like it. I just didn't know who the guy really was. I didn't. I didn't know who Peyton Turner was. I had to really do my homework on him. I didn't know who he was, to be honest. I wasn't very familiar with his game. As Shaq would say, I wasn't familiar with the game. Peyton Turner might be another Marcus Davenport, unfortunately. Well, it's looking that way. It's looking that way. But one thing that he has going for him, like, nobody has expectations for him. I can tell you that. It's not being disrespectful, but I sometimes forget this guy's even on the team. Like, and that's so crazy because he was a first round pick. Like, when we be talking about like defensive linemen, I really honestly forget that this guy's on the team. Like, I don't know about you, but like when I'm thinking about Saints defensive linemen, like it was like, oh yeah, they do got Peyton Turner. That's kind of how I feel because throughout his career, it's like, I don't know, man. He like that. He like that dude that in the neighborhood that comes outside every now and then, and mama might let him outside and play. You know what I'm saying? So you might see him out there, but then it go a long time without seeing him. That's kind of what he is. Yeah, that's kind of what he is. You ever had somebody in your neighborhood like you know who go, like if you start playing basketball in your front yard, you know who about to show up. You play football in the street, you know who gonna show up. They might have that one dude who mama don't really let him out the house that often, and he might be out there. He be like, okay, man, we glad to play with you, man. Glad to hang out with you, but we know this probably ain't gonna be a reoccurring thing. That's kind of what it is with Peyton. Let's see. What's good, Dalton, aka Patrick Mahomes? I'm thinking we are going left tackle. I think we should. I think the Saints should go left tackle. What's good, JT? TJ, by the way. Hollering who that nation all the way from Mississippi. Well, thank you, Kendall. I really do appreciate that. Bleacher Report app, pretty cool. Didn't know you could post on there. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't know. I think like more than likely, like there are places where you can actually post and create profiles, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I've been working with them. Let's see. I think I've been working with Bleacher Report since the beginning of last season. So yeah, I do live streams for them. Man, this is probably like one of the best podcasting platforms that I have ever worked for. Like, the transparency, like behind the scenes, is amazing. Like, everything is like pretty much, very, very professional. Yeah, I love working for Bleacher Report. Love working with them. Yeah, good folk over there. Shouts out to my guy Justin Ross. Says, did Pete sign with Tennessee? I don't know if he signed with them or not. I know he went to visit them, so we'll see. If they find and pay a top old lineman in free agency, we could use first round pick to address another need. We have so many holes due to free agency leaving and not many coming in. Well, James, I say this. You got to think about this. Like, if you go and think about the Saints already be having like cap issues year after year, time after time, right? So if you had opportunity to sign a guy, which to me, like who's out there? Like, who's out there that you can just sit up there and just sign and be like, okay, we're gonna have this guy as our left tackle for the next 4 to 5 years. Who's out there right now that you can say that? So to me, I just look, you gotta stop kicking the can down the road. Right? We talk about that term all the time. The Saints kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road. It is time for the Saints to solidify the left side of that line. Like, it's time. Like, you have not had stability since Teron Armstead has left. And now you're going into 3 seasons without T-Stead. You gotta fix that. Like, I get it, man. It's not the most sexiest position. Nobody, want to see, for the most part. No disrespect to him. It's not the sexiest position. When teams draft a guy, you see this big hog molly, wilding across the stage with a huge fabric that's a suit on, like, and hugging the commissioner. I know it's not the most sexiest thing in the world because we want to see guys that we see make acrobatic catches. We want to see guys that give us pick sixes. We want to see guys that's getting 3 and 4 sacks. When you look at the offensive line, it's not the most attractive position. So we don't want to hear those names called. But this is so necessary. To me, I'll go a little deeper. I feel like the offensive line is the most necessary thing that the Saints need right now. I'm serious. Like, out of any position that you can think of on this team, the offensive line is the most important position. Anything else, to me, outside of drafting the offensive line in the first round, would be a little bit of a luxury. Like, if you're talking about a quarterback, Well, they already know Derek Carr is going to be their quarterback for the next couple of years. If you're talking about a wide receiver, well, we already know that Chris Olave is the number one guy. So you can add to that particular group, but you already got guys that pretty much are solidified in their role. So when it comes to the left side of the line, you don't know. I mean, we talk about Trevor Penny, didn't work out at left tackle, it seems. All right, you already got Andrus Peat, he's gone. James Hurst, he's more of a rotation guy. He just kind of gets plugged and played throughout the line. So I just think that you need some stability because, it's that time. Because I'm tired of talking about this offensive line and these guys not being able to protect. And then, this guy's playing 1 week and then he's hurt and then he this offensive line. So I know, like I said, I know it's not the most attractive position in the world, but it's necessary. I don't feel like there's a position more necessary than offensive line for the New Orleans Saints in the first round. We have to protect any quarterback's blind side. Exactly. With Ram having a serious knee injury, I think we should add a right tackle as well. Well, that's when you need like somebody that's a rotational guy. So let's just say for like Ali Udo, right? They signed Ali Udo from the Minnesota Vikings. Like that would be somebody that I would think if something was to happen to Ram, he'll fill in. Or if something was to happen to the starting left tackle, he'll fill in. That's why I feel like you need to have depth. But as far as like drafting somebody like to take Ramczyk's job at this point, I wouldn't think so. I think there's some guys that can be pretty solid for you if something was to happen to Ram until like next year when you have to like address that issue. But I think that what the Saints have, they should be fine, especially if Udo ends up being like the rotation tackle guy. Comes in if somebody gets hurt. TJ, do you think we should keep Andrus Peat? No, I do not. Nope, I don't. I think it's time for him to go. I'm glad that he had a solid season, solid enough for him to be able to go out there and get money, take care of himself. That's important. But at the end of the day, I just think that it's time. I'm not going to allow one year and a couple games to really pretty much like just change my mind about Andrus Peat. I think that he's a smart player. I mean, of course he's smart. He went to Stanford for God's sakes. But I just think that it's time to move on. I think it's time for the Saints to be able to get some young, fresh faces on the offensive line and guys with a little bit of a mean streak. So that's where I feel like they're at right now. The Saints, to me, are in a transitional phase on the offensive line. So I ain't got no problem with Andrus Peat. I just think that it was just time to go. Let's see. Having a quarterback like Carr, we have to be perfect up front. Kind of sucks that Carr got 3 blind sides. How do you think our secondary chart will look? I think that it'll look good. I don't have an issue with that. I think the Saints got some really solid, corners. I still feel like maybe they need to add one more. You're counting on Lattimore. You're counting on Paulson Adebo. You're counting on Alontae Taylor. And, then after that, like who you got? I mean, who else can come in and fill that role? Other guys like Udo Amadi is a safety. Jonathan Abram is a safety. Tyrann Mathieu is a safety. Jordan Howden is a safety. So you're probably going to be looking at somebody else to be able to play on the outside just in case something was to happen to Marshawn Lattimore. So I expect for them to maybe sign somebody else via free agency, draft another guy, that you can kind of develop in your system. TJ, I like that offensive tackle out of Penn State. Yeah. He's a pretty talented guy. I mean, I can't pronounce his last name, but I mean, he's an award-winning offensive lineman. Some people feel like he's the best offensive lineman in the draft. Depends on who you talk to. Some people say Joe Alt. Some people say Tyler Guyton. Some people say Fuaga. Some people say this gentleman out of Penn State. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one of the guys that I named. if you select any one of these guys, you have yourself a really good offensive lineman, unless, history tells us otherwise. But right now, their history throughout college is telling us, well, the future remains to be unseen. But, everything that I've seen from these guys tells me that they got some talent. Hope we go with a later pick for O-line. We crap at early picks. Well, hopefully they can get it right. Let's see, right now looking good in the secondary. Yeah, until somebody get hurt. Like right now, like if you plan the season with the injury off, yeah. But we know that injuries occur throughout the season, especially at the cornerback position. So you need somebody that's going to be ready and willing to go out there and be able to neutralize their side of the field. So they still need some. What position is a must in the draft? Offensive lineman. I mean, to me. TJ, would we have to move up to get him though? It depends on how the draft goes. If you get teams drafting quarterbacks and wide receivers, like in the I don't know, the first 7 to 8 picks or something like that, and maybe Joe Alt falls and be the first offensive lineman off the board, then there's a chance that you can actually get him. But he is ranked pretty high. Some draft boards even have him going before Joe Alt. So I don't know. I mean, he's talented, and if they get him, that'll be a win. It's almost like when Marshawn Lattimore fell to the Saints back in 2017. Like everybody expected him to go second or third to the Chicago Bears. I want to say the Bears had the third pick or something like that when they got Trubisky. But everybody expected Marshawn Lattimore to be who the Bears pick up. And of course he fell for reasons beyond me, but he fell to the New Orleans Saints, so it worked out. So you're probably going to be looking at a 2017 type situation and be able to acquire him from 14. TJ, maybe I'm tripping, but as of right now, it just feels like if we have 1 or 2 injuries to the starters, it's going to be a long season. Yeah, it kind of seems that way, but I have seen guys step up and make some plays. I mean, we've seen Isaac Yiadom do the same thing, got himself paid in San Francisco. We've seen Jonathan Abram come in, step up at the safety position, provide a little bit of a spark. We've seen a couple guys come in, make some plays. So I don't want to say all hope is lost just because, we see guys that are known for being stable, and you probably have a guy that's uncertain or you're uncertain about. And, they come in and they play pretty solid. So I don't want to say that it'll be a long season. That's why you work really hard to get really good depth, and you develop the players, and you expect for them to be able to play at a high level. And the Saints, they had that last season. I mean, Jordan Howden played pretty solid. A couple guys came in, started to take advantage of their opportunities, towards the end of the season. So I think it all depends on how these guys develop and who they have in place as far as the depth chart. So crap at early picks. I'm sure Olave has something to say about that. Look, man, I mean, teams are going to have hit and misses, right? I just think that we pay more attention to the misses than the hits. Like Olave was a good pick. Even though, Eric McCoy, I mean, he was in the second round. That was a good pick. Ramczyk was a good pick. I mean, you got some guys in the first round who were smart picks by the New Orleans Saints. We just pay attention to the Davenports and the Turners. I mean, even Cesar Ruiz, I mean, he's starting to get better. So that's looking less and less like a bad pick. So we can't just say oh man, they just whiff on picks. I mean, because for every, Trevor Penning, there's a Ryan Ramczyk, right? For every Peyton Turner, there was a Cam Jordan or a Marshawn Lattimore or, so I can't say they just always pick bad. I don't want to say that. I mean, you got some talented guys that, that the Saints have picked up throughout the years. We just pay more attention to the ones that are bad. Let's see. How would y'all rank our needs? I would say offensive line, defensive line, quarterback, linebacker, tight end, defensive back. me personally, and okay, so I agree with you with number one with the offensive line. Number two, to me, would probably be defensive back, because I feel like you just need some depth with that. Number three would probably be defensive line. Number four, probably wide receiver. Number five would probably be a tight end. And six, it would be, six would be a linebacker, because I feel like the way the Saints play the linebacker position, they don't really, have a bunch of guys. Most of the time what we see out there is, DeMario Davis and Pete Werner. Like everybody else kind of just a rotation guy. So, I think they should be good with that. Adding Willie Gay to the room, I think it's kind of helped them. So they probably will look at that position like, I think we'll be okay. Anybody else will probably be playing on special teams, which, they got some solid, some solid guys on special teams at the linebacker position. You still got Andrew Dow out there who missed the season, but we know how good he is on special team when he's playing. Let's see. Would you go best overall player at 14 or best fit? Feels like we are in need of top tier talent. Our team decent but missing young studs. We can build around. Well, the Saints are starting to get to that point where they can pick the best fit, because, like I said, any direction that they go in wouldn't be a bad one, and nobody would have an issue with it, because you need help at all positions. Like even with Cool Sports, giving his ranking, like I can make an argument, and for his rankings right there. I guess it's just a matter of your particular preference, like what you feel. But I don't think there's any wrong answer for this. Like if you were to draft a quarterback in the first round, who getting mad at that? If the Saints draft a wide receiver in the first round, who would get mad at that? A defensive lineman, who would get mad at that? I think the only position they'll probably get upset is if they draft a running back or something in the first round. Then people are like, what the heck are you doing? But other than that, like every other position, you can pretty much make an argument for. So, but I think if you go best available, I don't think anybody would be mad at that. But I just feel like you should go with the best offensive lineman available, in my opinion. Saints like that defensive end from Delaware Culinary Art Institute. But seriously, if they grab somebody like Guyton at 14, I hope they come back at 45 and get a run stuffer like Trevante Sweat at 45. Well, look, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. Tyler Guyton is definitely high on my list. I just like his athleticism and his mean streak. And I feel like that's something that's been missing from the New Orleans Saints offensive line for a while. But, if they want to go get a run stuffer, like Sweat, or get a wide receiver like Keon Coleman if he's still out there, or they draft a, quarterback, I don't know, like Jordan Travis or something like that later in one of those rounds, I wouldn't be mad at any of that. I wouldn't be mad at any of that stuff, if they were to do that. Do you think it's true we tried to trade for Pickett, and would it have been a good pickup? Pickett and pickup. Yeah, from everything I heard that, it was, true. Do I think it was a good pickup? I don't hate Kenny Pickett. I don't, I just think that sometimes we wash our hands with certain players and we say they're not good enough because of the team, but we don't look at what the team had around them. Like, I understand that we look at the quarterback position and we feel like if you good, you good, no matter who your coach is, no matter who the players around you are, but that's just not true. So I don't dislike Kenny Pickett. If the Saints were to were to trade for Kenny Pickett, I wouldn't have got mad at that. I think that there's something there. But I just feel like sometimes with those quarterbacks, when reputations start to develop, fans start to just believe it. They're not going to do their own homework and due diligence on stuff. And that's one issue that I have a problem with. Like, we just accept narratives that's given by guys. And, and because the narratives are out there, when we watch them with the narrative in mind. So if someone on a nationally syndicated sports show tells us that Kenny Pickett doesn't have a really good work ethic, or he's lazy, or he doesn't work hard, or he's not going to be a good quarterback. We honestly start to believe that stuff, and we start to apply it to our mental. So when we're watching them, we feel like they're not worth our time, or we're looking for them to make a mistake, or if they do make a mistake, it's amplified. So I think he's too young in his career for anybody just to say that he just hopeless. That's the issue I have with people criticizing Justin Fields. When they say Justin Fields, oh, he's not good enough. Like, dude hasn't been in the league long enough. And I just don't understand how people can, they pick and choose who they want to give their success story to, right? If a guy's been in the league 5 years and things don't work out, some guys we will be like, man, just give him a chance. If you give him a defense, you give him wide receivers, man, he going to be straight. And then you got other guys, if they start off, from the jump, even though they might go to a franchise that is terrible, can't find a coach, coaching staff lazy as I don't know what, making the players lazy as I don't know what. We never tend to look at the organization. We always just look at the player, but we don't look at what the organization can do to a player. So to me, I don't think he's done enough in the National Football League for me to say that he's horrible. I don't buy into narratives. I just think that sometimes, like, the narrative and the voices get so loud that it's hard for these quarterbacks to drown out. And like I said, when they start to make mistakes, it's amplified. Versus, like, if you have a solid quarterback that makes mistake, you'll probably give him an opportunity. People aren't really talking about him as often, so he's getting the opportunity to learn from his mistakes. Versus somebody, if the media has it in for a person, or feels like, by saying this about said person, they'll probably give me some level of attention. But people listen to all that stuff and they apply it to their everyday thinking. So, long story short, I ain't got no problem with Kenny Pickett. I don't. And I just don't think that you can really tell if a quarterback is going to be good or not 2 years into their career. I just don't. Like, yeah, they can make mistakes, but they're young. Some guys in their rookie season probably going to struggle, and second year probably get better. Or, they probably struggle their rookie season, get a little bit better than the next season, and be ready to take off the third season. Or they may go to another organization or get a new coach that can actually pull out their potential. Yeah, my mouth would drop if we drafted a running back. Yeah, if they draft a running back, that would probably be the only reason why anybody would get upset. I think Saints fans going to be upset at draft. I don't see why, because they need so many different things. I got to watch some Guyton film. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good and athletic, and I think that's what the Saints need. Tyler Guyton, my guy out of Oklahoma. Yeah, he also played at TCU as well to start his college career. TJ is right, for example. Do you think Patrick Mahomes went to the Jets that he would have 3 rings? He might make them good and a lot better, but I don't think they would have won 3 rings. No, I think that had a lot to do with Andy Reid. And even with that, like, even with Patrick Mahomes, man, like, nobody really believed in Patrick Mahomes either. Ain't nobody believe in him. Like, I was watching something, ironically, yesterday. I was watching something where you had analysts like Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith and Will Kane and all of them, like, just bashing Patrick Mahomes, a bad footwork. They're making a mistake moving up, jumping in front of New Orleans Saints at 10. They should have let him go to the Saints. I wish they did. But now look at them. Like, now you probably ain't going to find that nowhere online. They didn't scrub that from existing, but somebody found it. So you never know. I mean, you never know what guy's going to end up being. Got to give him an opportunity, though. Is Baker Mayfield a product of what you just described, TJ? I never thought that Baker Mayfield was that terrible. I don't. Like, if you look at Baker Mayfield's first year, right? All right, he won Rookie of the Year. I think he set I think he broke Peyton Manning's touchdown record for a rookie, right? I mean, the Browns went to the playoffs for the first time in I don't know how long. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. They almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, they were a Chad Henne run away from going to the AFC Championship game with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. So it just seemed like in his second year, when he started to be on those progressive commercials, and y'all know all them progressive commercials he was on when he was at the Brown Stadium and stuff, funny stuff, good content. But people just started like looking at like, man, who is he? Why does he deserve a commercial? Look how he playing. Well, and all of a sudden, like that was the narrative. Like, and then everybody just started talking about how terrible the guy was, which I didn't understand. Because I'm like, okay, man, like this dude led the Browns to the playoffs. Then on top of that, you got to take a look at him also when the Browns was struggling, and they didn't win a game, because you remember the year before they drafted him, they didn't win a game. And then he ended up like coming in after in the second half, I think, when the quarterback got hurt, and he led them to their first victory. And I think they started off the season, they lost 3 games. So he ended up going out there and helping them win his snap of 17, 18 game losing streak. So I just never understood that. I never thought that Baker Mayfield was as terrible as people say. I don't get into narratives, folks, because I am, and I'm pretty sure you are too. I'm smart enough to understand that people get paid to give these takes. And honestly, they do these things for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part to get attention on themselves. Like they play characters. It's no different than watching wrestling or something. I'm a bad guy, so I want you to boo me. I want you to dislike me. I want you to tell me how terrible I am, right? I mean, never thought that dude was that terrible. But, when the whole world is saying that, and when you hear it over and over again, and you hear one side lobbying for him, and that person that's probably lobbying for him, you probably don't like a Skip Bayless or something like that, because you don't really like what he says, you automatically just going to be like, man, this dude ain't really that good. So I never thought that Baker Mayfield was that terrible. Which leads me to my next point. We got to talk about this before we get out of here. Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. Now, the reason I'm having this conversation and the reason I'm talking about this right now is because I put something up on social media. Let me see if I can actually pull this up so I can show you all what I'm talking about. So I put up a tweet on social media in regards to the Saints wide receivers, 2 wide receivers in particular, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. I put a tweet up, and I'm about to put that up on the screen so everybody can see what I'm talking about here. All right, so I put this up right here. Try to minimize. Let me change this up a little bit so everybody can kind of see it. I don't know if everybody can see that or not. Come on. Should I switch? Okay, there we go. All right. I'm sorry, man. This new platform, I'm still learning all the ins and outs. But anyway, here's the tweet. All right, I said, I don't think people realize what these 2 guys are about to do this season, which, I'm referring to Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, 2 young, talented wide receivers, and, have the capabilities of doing something very, very magical. So you have people saying stuff like with Derek Carr throwing a safety first route running or else, you got with used Carr throwing to him, not expecting much. Is Derek Carr still a quarterback? So as you can see, people aren't very, excited about that. They're not excited about, these guys' potential because they feel a certain way about Derek Carr. So I just thought that it would be suffice to talk a little bit about this, like talk a little bit about Derek Carr, talk a little bit about Dennis Allen. Look, I was talking to a really good, really good friend of mine. He's a former NFL player. Talked to him a couple of days ago, and he was telling me about. He said, "I know you're a Saints fan, TJ." He said, "But I gotta keep it real with you." He said, "I don't see the Saints doing anything until Dennis Allen is gone." And I was like, that was so telling, man, because I'm like, man, if you got somebody that really don't really follow the team like that, but does their job really well and really knowledgeable of the game, if they feel like this, then they got to have a lot of other people that feel this way as well. People that's within the media, behind the scenes as well. And you look at Derek Carr, and He got signed by the New Orleans Saints at the time, around this time last year. Look, whether you want to admit it or not, you had a nice little size of Saints fans out there that were excited to see this guy in the black and gold. They felt like the issues that plagued the New Orleans Saints at the quarterback position were over. They felt like that he was going to provide some stability. I know I felt that way. I ain't about to throw the brick, hide your hand. Like, go back in the archives and you'll hear me talk about this guy. But as we see, a lot of people have turned on him. And I think the biggest issue is not so much about his quarterback play. I just know that New Orleans Saints fans, they don't want just good players. They want them to be good people or be perceived as a good person. And I just think that earlier in the season, when Derek Carr was yelling on the sidelines and calling out Chris Olave and not really taking responsibility for certain things that were going on, and I just think that a lot of people kind of soured on him. And because, it was something that we weren't used to seeing at the quarterback position, or what we have not seen in a long time. Like, we know that when Drew Brees was the quarterback, you rarely ever heard him throwing anybody under the bus. You never really seen him really going at nobody or anything like that. When mistakes were made, you'll see him over there kind of talking to the guy, but it was more in a respectful manner, like, okay, man, we just need you to do this, do that. But it was never to a point where it kind of blew up. And you also, look at Drew Brees as a human being, like being out in the community, doing all these different things. He's like a deity in the eyes of Saint fans because of everything that he's done. But when you have a guy like Derek Carr who came to the New Orleans Saints, and some people felt like maybe he was under the impression like he was, the savior of the franchise by coming to New Orleans. And a part of us probably felt like he thought like, y'all ain't going to be nothing without us. But look at us now, like we basically just the same. So I think a lot of people's feelings about Derek Carr isn't that much about him playing a quarterback position, more so than his behavior and his personality. Like, I've heard, and I'm just saying this is not me. People say things like he seems phony, like he seems disingenuous. It seems like he's one of those guys that says the right things because it's the right thing to say. But if you caught him like behind the scenes, it'll be like a completely different story. Some people feel that way, and it rubs them the wrong way. But as much as, we criticize Derek Carr, one thing I will say, he's not the worst quarterback that I've ever seen. Like, people saying like, oh man, like this dude just garbage, like he just stink. Like, he's not that terrible. Like, is he a top 10 quarterback in the league? No. But what I've seen is you ain't got to be a top 10 quarterback in the league in order to win a Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl. You ain't got to be that. You don't have to be a top 10 quarterback if you have the right team around you, which leads us to the next question. Can you win with Dennis Allen? Now, this is more serious than even with Derek Carr, because I feel like sometimes Dennis Allen, when he's coaching, he gets outcoached, and they lose games that they have no business losing. And it just feels like no matter what the New Orleans Saints put together, it never just seems to work. And I also just feel like even if the New Orleans Saints come out the gate like hot, red hot, I still feel like it's a part of me just feels like it's just a cover-up, because you basically are doing these things and you're successful because of the infrastructure that you put around them, right? That's the way I feel. Like, it's like somebody that can't walk, and you holding one person holding them up by one arm, the other person holding them up by the other, right? And let's just say they're in a large crowd, right? But if you're in a large crowd and you see a crowd move, it looks as if that person is walking too, but they're not. Except they're being carried, and that's the issue that I have with Dennis Allen. If you bring in Clint Kubiak and he gets this offense rolling, You put you put the running back, you got a new running backs coach, offensive line coach, all these different coaches, right? So if the offense starts to look good, they start clicking, they vibing, Saints putting up points, you know that it's probably not going to last very long because Clint Kubiak is going to get called and he's going to get a head coaching job. And if he leaves, then what's that mean? You got to go out here and try to find somebody else that kind of fits that same format or somebody that kind of, resembles what you're trying to build. So you would have to keep hitting over and over and over again. It's kind of like 2017. Like 2017 was an outlier. 2017 when you got, Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, not Carl Granderson, but Trey Hendrickson, Akeem, Muhammad. You had Alex Anzalone, you had Marcus Wheat. Like that's an outlier. That's an outlier. Like the chances of that happening are like slim to none. And as we can see, like they couldn't win with those guys, and they couldn't like build on that momentum. So that's where the Saints are where they at right now. So in order for the New Orleans Saints in my opinion, to win consistently with Dennis Allen, they are going to have to continue. Like if Clint Kubiak is successful, they're going to have to continue to like keep on like, doing the same thing over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. Because the moment that you don't, you're going to go back down to reality. So it's only a matter of time before this guy like gets exposed. And I'm just concerned about that. I'm really concerned about it. Like, to me, it would not surprise me at all if the New Orleans Saints are much better than all of us think that they're going to be. And I think it would probably be because Clint Kubiak got the offense on track. But I'm concerned, like, if he's so good at his job, he leaves. And then you find yourself in the same position as you were in if you don't find somebody that can replicate what Clint Kubiak has done, and you find somebody more so what Pete Carmichael has done, you're not gonna, you're not gonna find that level of success. So to me, can they win with Dennis Allen? Yes, with the right infrastructure around him. Individuals that can kind of not put him in positions more times than not to make the big decision. Because I'm really concerned, like when they go up against competent coaches, I just feel like he gets out-coached. Because it comes down to my best versus your best. You might be better, right? But if I can move and shake a little bit, I can probably beat you. But it just seems like, it's like a local chess champion, right? You beating everybody. You beating everybody in chess. And then all of a sudden, like, you go somewhere else where they advance, and all of a sudden, you hear checkmate before you sit down. Like it's, he gets out coached. That's my biggest concern. My bigger concern, can you continuously keep things around him to make him look like he knows what he's doing for the most part? I mean, because he's talented as a defensive mind. I have no concerns with the defense. I don't have no concerns with that. And if you can get this offense rolling, you're going to win a lot of football games. But it's going to come at a price, because we all know, just like with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had Daniel Canales, offensive coordinator. He resurrected Baker Mayfield's career, got Baker Mayfield paid. Now he goes to the Carolina Panthers, and, he was only with Tampa for 1 year. Now Tampa has to try to find somebody to try to recreate what Daniel Canales did. And if they don't, then Ty Bowe's going to get exposed as a coach. So you got to be that's the way I feel. I think Clint Kubiak taking over the offense could help us win more in spite of DA's faults. It's kind of like you said, how we needed a coach with a different personality instead of the same, like Pete Carmichael. Yeah, I just think that what you have is a bunch of individuals. What you have is a bunch of individuals that were like-minded, and they were around each other so long you can finish each other's sentences. And sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes, to me, that can be a recipe for disaster, because if everybody is basically on the same wavelength, where's the growth? Like, where do you grow from that, right? I don't like to be in places with people that are like-minded like me all the time. I want to be somewhere where somebody can give me an opportunity to think, like put something on my mind that I might not have thought about. But when you have a bunch of people that are like-minded, been around the same culture, used to the same things, the same things being instilled inside of them, like, where's the growth? So to me, like, going out here outsourcing for a guy that doesn't have connections with the New Orleans Saints, and he can provide a different culture from a team that actually has a reputation of being a winner, is a plus. So I think that's a smart decision. You know, I think that the Saints will get out this particular hole by thinking outside the box. Like, that whole Sean Payton, Drew Brees thing was great. It was a great moment in time, but I don't think you can replicate that. And I think the sooner you understand that, the better. And to me, also, I felt like by signing Derek Carr, they went down the same road. They were trying to find somebody that resembled as close as they possibly can to the style of Drew Brees, even though, I mean, that sounds funny saying that, but that's what they thought. They thought that he was an easy read and very little maintenance had to take place. But now you see, like, you need to put a lot of things around him in order for him to thrive. He's not like that. Like, if you put certain things around him, then he can be successful. You know, but if you don't put those things around him, he's just an average Joe Blow. He's a jag, just another guy. But, you know, both, to be honest with you, they're both like that. Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. Like, you got to put certain things around them in order for them to thrive. And, you know, you got to put top-notch things around them in order for them to thrive. I'm with your friend, the former player, Qudis, Olave, Shaheed, and many other players did not have their usual success, and Carr at the helm. Same thing Carr did in Oakland with weapons. Look, all I'm saying is he's not the worst quarterback I've ever seen. Like, he's not like, if we went into the season with Nathan Peterman as a starting quarterback, then you can say all hope is lost. But look, I think that Derek Carr is decent. I just think that, man, Drew Brees just set such a huge mark, and he set the standard so high that anybody that doesn't resemble that or doesn't give Saints fans that, they just reject it. But everybody can't be Drew. Everybody can't be Drew. Like, everybody can't do what Drew did. I wish they could, but they can't. And that's something that I think we just have to accept. Like, whoever comes in, unless, like, the Saints just make this blockbuster trade to acquire Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert or something like that, like, you're not going to replicate what Drew Brees did with Derek Carr. You're just not. You know, but that doesn't mean that you can't win football games. You just got to find more creative ways to do so. You know, it was very low maintenance. Like, Drew Brees was very low maintenance. You know, like, put him out there, let him work. You know, like, put anything around him, right? You put anything around him, he gonna thrive. You know, he gonna stand out. He gonna make it work. But you know, with Derek Carr, like, he high maintenance. Like, you gotta put things around him, right? You gotta put some work into that 1972 Mustang. You know what I'm saying? We gotta. You know, get that engine right. You know what I'm saying? You gotta change them spark plugs. You gotta put some work into it in order for it to, you know, reach its full potential. You know, yeah. Drew Brees set the standard so high. So now, for some of you, probably, you know, grew up with Drew Brees as your quarterback, like, you don't understand, like, that was a pleasure and an honor, and everybody don't get that. And for a long time, the Saints did not have that. That's why he was so special. Like, it wasn't the fact that, I mean, him playing at a high level, that was great. But what made it even more special is because Saints fans ain't never seen it. Never had that type of stability at the quarterback position. So now, because of that, we don't even realize it. Like Drew Brees, like kind of like basically because how great he was, he psychologically programmed us to believe that this is what we need. But everybody wish they had Drew Brees. Now that's not just the Saints. That's anybody. TJ, do you think it was more Peyton or Drew? How good of Coach Peyton was? Well, now we will see in Denver. What's your opinion? I think that they needed each other. I think that they complemented each other. I think that Drew Brees was who he was because of Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton was who he was because of Drew Brees. I don't think you can tell a story one without the other. I feel like if it was any other quarterback other than Drew, Sean Payton would not be the greatest head coach of all time for the New Orleans Saints. And if Drew Brees didn't have Sean Payton, then vice versa. I think that Drew Brees would have been good, but I don't think he would have been that, like what he was. Because if you look at Drew Brees when he was for the Chargers, Drew Brees was good, but he wasn't like lighting it up, because Marty Schottenheimer was more of a run, at that run-based type coach, right? He wanted to run the football with LT. Wanted LT to catch the ball out of the backfield. So it was a lot of like dumping off, 2 yards in a cloud of dust type stuff. So I don't think you can. I don't think you can tell a story about either one without the other. So I don't know. I don't want to say that he just a failure of a coach because Drew Brees was his quarterback. And now that he doesn't have Drew, I'm not buying that. I think they needed one another. I think they both needed one another. I don't think either one would have had success. I think that Sean Payton would have been, a decent coach, but I don't think he would have been looked at the way that he was. Hell, Carr ain't young either. Yeah, he not young. He's not young at all. But like I said, I just don't think that I don't think he's that terrible. I've seen worse quarterback play. TJ, I agree. We have to put things around Carr to get the best out of him. The problem is, unfortunately, Father Time doesn't stop. While we're waiting to put things around Carr, players are getting older. Yeah, that's true. That's why you got to take advantage of these opportunities right now, and you got to make sure that you're doing right by the organization. And you also got to understand, you got to cut your losses sometimes, right? Like sometimes you just got to cut your losses. Working out. I just think that the Saints sometimes are so too loyal to players to a fault. Like maybe that player is just a good citizen, a good person, and I understand that. But look, you can't run your organization, like that, because I feel like that's what put the Saints in a lot of these situations because of their loyalty and love for a player. Oh, they're so good. I want them to be on the team forever. But it's a business, man. It's no hard feelings, and these guys understand that. So I just think that, maybe they just need to look at that in the future. Not so much about, oh, this guy's just great or, he's doing all this stuff in the community. That's great, but, man, it's about making your team as effective every single year as possible, right? If you don't do that, then you're going to be going down a downward spiral. So now you got a bunch of players on there. There's a bunch of really good guys, really good philanthropists and entrepreneurs and humanitarians, but they up there in age. And now you kind of, I won't say you stuck with them, but you got to hope that they pan out. And hopefully they can play as long as their contract entails. But I want to say thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Shouts out to everybody here. I ask that you hit that like button if you enjoyed the State of the Saints podcast. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat. I want everybody to click that link. It brings you to Bleacher Report. I do a weekly podcast on Bleacher Report, Saints Talk with TJAY Jones. I'm just asking you to hit that link, follow the page, and you'll get up-to-date information on episodes that I do, notifications, etc. So make sure that you check that out. You got previous episodes of the State of the Saints podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. of the Unapologetic Podcast. It's not sports related, but it is going to be airing later on tonight. We're going to be talking a little bit about, man, my childhood, something that I used to do growing up. Got to talk about Nickelodeon, man. I don't know if y'all checked out this new documentary that came out called Quiet on the Set. Some very, very disturbing stuff right there when it comes to like Nickelodeon. And if you, an 80s baby like me, grew up in the 90s and in your, 30s, mid to late 30s, and you grew up on Nickelodeon. And that documentary right there, man, kind of ruined a little bit of my childhood. But we're going to be talking about that, man. So make sure y'all check it out. It's on youtube.com, search Unapologetic Podcast. And thank y'all so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. Have a good morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. Oh, man, before I go, I'm sorry about this. I got to say this to everybody here. Man, make sure that you support local Saints podcasters out there, independent Saints podcasters out there. Look, I understand that some people have bigger names and they have bigger platforms and all that, and they do a great job. I'm not going to call anybody out because I don't want to make it feel like I'm trying to attack anybody. But you have some really good independent Saints podcasters out here that are doing some amazing things. And, I know sometimes, people like to, go with the bells and whistles, but you got people that are really passionate about this team, the fan base, so make sure that y'all supporting local and, independent sports podcasters out there that are working just as hard as some of your favorite ones out there. All right. So just wanted to let that be known. Make sure you check it out, check those individuals out, follow their channels. Some of them in the chat right now, talking right now. Make sure y'all support them. Give those individuals a like or subscribe because, the more Saints content that is out there, the better. So make sure you support them. All right. Till next time, all I got to say is, who that?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.